Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to live coverage here on Dubai One Television of the coronation of King Charles III, which is set to be the most glorious display of pageantry seen in Britain for a generation. Local time here in Dubai is just after 1 p.m. In London, England, it's just after 10 in the morning. We're now under 20 minutes away from the start of the King's historic procession from Buckingham Palace as it enters the streets of the capital and passes hundreds of thousands of people as it heads towards Westminster Abbey. Buckingham Palace says that the service at the Abbey will reflect the British monarch's role today and look towards the future while being rooted in long-standing traditions and pageantry. The sights, the sounds and the spectacle of today's coronation is going to be like nothing else. If you want to watch a coronation, this is definitely the one to see. Let's first of all have a look at the timeline of the events for King Charles's big day. At 1 o'clock local time, as it is now in London, heads of state, as it is here in UAE, members of the royal family are arriving at Westminster Abbey at 1:20 p.m. UAE time. Royal procession starts towards Buckingham Palace and will arrive at around 2 p.m, where the coronation ceremony begins at Westminster Abbey. Then at 3 p.m. UAE time, the King is officially crowned, wearing St Edward's crown for the only time in his life. At 4 p.m, King and the King and Queen's procession from Westminster Abbey heads back to Buckingham Palace along the 2.2-kilometre route. And at 4:45 p.m, its arrival back at Buckingham Palace with a short break for presumably a nice cup of tea. And then the royal family gather on the balcony at Buckingham Palace for the flypast, weather permitting. Now we are looking at live pictures inside Westminster Abbey. The church has been buzzing all morning since very, very early as the congregation has been filing in and filling up the seats. Many have taken their seats out before the ceremony starts. At the moment there's still at least almost an hour to go until King Charles III will arrive at Westminster Abbey. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, will preside over the coronation service at Westminster Abbey today. You can see the diamond stage coach there arriving at Buckingham Palace, which will take King Charles III and the Queen Consort, Camilla, on the 45-minute journey to Westminster Abbey from Buckingham Palace. Of course, Buckingham Palace is the official residence of the British monarch in London. The palace was originally built back in 1703. It was later acquired by King George III in 1761 as a private residence. In later years, it was commissioned by the architect John Nash to transform it into the building and the palace that we see today. before King Charles III arrives, there is inside the Abbey representatives arriving from Commonwealth countries. Also, they'll be carrying the flags of their country and accompanied by governors, prime ministers and VIPs. There are also important members from the community as well, including the National Health Service, including doctors who were so important during the COVID pandemic. And there are also dignitaries from the military services as well. There we are seeing the Diamond Jubilee state coach rather than the older, more uncomfortable gold stage coach, which is actually a slight break from tradition. But the coach that the King Charles III and the Queen Consort will be travelling in to Westminster Abbey will be the Diamond Jubilee stagecoach. It was built in 2012 in Australia to mark 60 years of Queen Elizabeth II's reign. On the return journey, later on after the ceremony, the King and the Queen will be riding in the gold stagecoach. In just over 5 minutes now, the procession will set off from Buckingham Palace, moving along the route towards Westminster Abbey. Wonderful pictures there of Buckingham Palace and the Mall, the big road there that leads up to Buckingham Palace in front of it. Former Prime Minister Tony Blair and his wife Sherry. Kings, queens and dignitaries from around the world, obviously former prime ministers as well, in attendance today at the coronation. Former Prime Minister Gordon Brown just walking in as well to Westminster Abbey. For the past 900 years, the coronation has been held in Westminster Abbey. William the Conqueror was the first monarch to be crowned there, and King Charles today will be the 40th. There we can see Boris Johnson and his wife arriving at Westminster Abbey, the former Prime Minister of the UK. Rishi Sunak, the current Prime Minister, will be doing a reading at the service as well, a little bit later on. Here are members of the Commonwealth arriving at Westminster Abbey, holding the flags of their nations. The music today that we're hearing at the coronation is chosen personally, most of it, by King Charles III. And also there are a number of new compositions as well. that King Charles was instrumental in choosing. There are also some old standards that have stood the test of time for hundreds of years that will be played today. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is just arriving now inside Westminster Abbey. So you can see there the Canadian flag and many other flags of the Commonwealth. And there we see Rishi Sunak, British Prime Minister, arriving with his wife at Westminster Abbey for today's coronation service. The crowning of King Charles III. In just a couple of minutes, we are going to see the coach leave Buckingham Palace and slowly make its way along the 2.2 kilometre route from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Abbey in central London. The coronation today features customs dating back more than 1,000 years. Here we are back at Buckingham Palace, and the stagecoach is, the actual coach is just arriving, it's just leaving, I should say, Buckingham Palace on its way to Westminster Abbey. Perfectly on time, at exactly 10:20 in the UK, 1:20 here in Dubai. Thousands of fans, royal fans, are lining the route to Westminster Abbey. They have been there from very, very early this morning. In fact, they were allowed to come in and take their positions at about 6 a.m. UK time. And in fact, some even camped out over the last week in order to be at the front so they can get the best view. So the procession is just leaving Buckingham Palace. It is then travelling up the Mall to Trafalgar Square. It'll then go down Whitehall and Parliament Street, past number 10 Downing Street, where the Prime Minister lives, past the Houses of Parliament, before turning into Parliament Square and Broad Sanctuary, before it reaches the Great West Door of Westminster Abbey. It'll take about 40 minutes and 2.2 kilometres. Out overnight in tents. Thousands and thousands of royal fans catching a glimpse of the King and Queen Consort on this very special, historic coronation day. Rounds of applause ringing out as the King and Queen Consort pass. Coronation processions currently underway, going down the Mall at the moment in London. Here in Dubai, we are just seeing this amazing, live pictures of the coronation. So joining us for this special coverage, we have Dia Al-Umari, who is in London for us. Dia, hello. How are you? And what can you tell us? What vantage point do you have at the moment there at the coronation?
Well, you can see just behind me, the weather is typical British summer weather, rainy and wet, but that not to stop people from coming here to witness the coronation of King Charles. And yesterday, the King Charles was next to Buckingham Palace, was cheering. The crowd said that the rain is a blessing. I think now we are witnessing 1,000 years of deep rooted religious and ceremonial tradition to be served in public. That the first, we bearing in our mind that the first coronation was held in 1066 for for the William the Conqueror. Then 40 reigning monarchs was coronated at Westminster Abbey. So in a few minutes, maybe. Let me say also that Buckingham Palace said yesterday in his statement that the ceremony, the coronation, reflects the monarch's role.
We've been watching a very beautiful, colourful, dignified, musically magnificent coronation ceremony at Westminster Abbey. King Charles III and Queen Camilla are now leaving Westminster Abbey, and the bells are ringing out. There will also be the sound of trumpets and gun salutes as well, fired across the United Kingdom. The King and Queen are now about to get inside the coach to take them back to Buckingham Palace. This is the Gold State coach, built in 1762. King Charles III and Queen Camilla about to make their way back to the palace. They'll be travelling on the same route, actually. They came to the service and the coronation. It's exactly the same route, but in reverse. The carriage itself is made of wood coated with gold leaf. Weighs 4 tons. It's 23 foot long. On the way back to the palace, there's going to be many more and the entourage heading back to the palace. In fact, when the King and Queen arrive back at the palace, the other end of the procession will still be almost where the Abbey is, where we're seeing the pictures now. 2.2 kilometres. King Charles has led a life of service. In fact, he becomes monarch aged 74. His mother, Queen Elizabeth II, was 25 when she took to the throne. But King Charles III has a life of experience to bring to the monarch. The coach we're seeing now is much slower than the coach that they arrived in earlier. So it does take a little bit more time to get back to the palace. More than 4,000 members of the UK's armed forces are taking part as they march back to Buckingham Palace as part of the coronation celebrations. And there they go, on their way. Of course, the day's celebrations aren't over just yet. There's a lot more in store. And when they get back to the palace, they will be at some point in about 2 hours' time on the balcony for a fly past, weather permitting, in the Royal Air Force. Thousands and thousands of people have been lining the coronation route, just waiting a lifetime to see this spectacle in front of their own eyes. Also in the entourage heading back to Buckingham Palace, the Prince of Wales, the Princess of Wales, Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis. Cheers of joy and celebration in central London today. King and Queen are expected to arrive back at Buckingham Palace in about 20 minutes from now. Pictures there of Prince Harry, who flew in from America just in the late evening last night for the coronation, I should say. Prince Harry is the 5th in line to the throne. And as with all members of the royal family, he is, for the first time, watching the coronation unfold in front of his eyes. You've been watching live coverage here on Dubai One TV of the first coronation.